Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? It's fully draft season. I mean, I'm catching up on all these friggin' mine is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always, by the way. But Rick and I have spent the last 3 weeks catching up on rookie drafts that we didn't do.
Yeah.
And we're finally caught up. I thought I was never going to get them done. I was like halfway thinking that these leagues were going to shut down, to be honest with you. I didn't do a single startup this year. And that's a good thing, probably.
I know, it is a good thing. I might do a last-second startup because I'm a psycho.
Of course. I do want to start a fantasy football analyst redraft league because we don't have one of those.
Yeah, that's true.
And that would be interesting. So I'll see. Well, I'm going to try to develop that, see what we can get on this. But anyway, because, everyone's getting in the leagues and they all of them have wives, I'll tell you.
Yep.
Not
except me.
Except you. Yeah. But anyway, welcome back into the show. Like I said on the last episode, on the next 2 episodes here, we were going to talk about breakout players. On this one, we're going to talk about breakout running backs. Next time we do breakouts, it'll be quarterback / tight end. So it should be real interesting in that one. We'll try to condense that down. But running backs for the breakout running backs for this year were a slog, a challenge.
Yep.
And I don't want to get burned because there's 3 rookies on this list. So we might have some guys on next year's list too if something doesn't happen here. But anyway, lots of interesting situations for the running back position because of the PPR, not the PPR, because of the split at the running back position for most teams at this point. It makes it hard for guys to truly have a workhorse load, and a lot of people don't have that. A lot of running backs don't have that anymore. So, and the guys that do generally go high. There is a few guys that we've talked about on the value show and stuff like that are slipping down that will have larger workloads, like Miles Sanders, for example, with the Carolina Panthers. But the guys by the 5th round, the guys that have any form of workload are gone. So finding breakouts is going to be a challenge this year, but we're going to do our best. We're going to go through 5 breakout running backs that we can talk about. Before we do that, check our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like and comment down below any questions you may have, and drop your breakout running back in the comments.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we have 2 guys that we've talked quite a lot about, but we'll spend some time on today. And we said this last show, and then it ended up being 40 minutes. But anyway, but no. So we're going to talk about number 1, Jahmyr Gibbs from the Detroit Lions. We got another Lions breakout, so we must be really in on the Lions.
Yeah.
Would you have him for wins and losses? 10 and 7.
Everybody else. 10-7, yeah. And that's tame. Some people had them at
week 1. Who wins? Chiefs, Lions. Thursday Night Football.
Chiefs.
Dang. Thought I could get you.
Let's not get stupid.
That'll probably be the Sunday night crew, right? Chris Collinsworth and
probably, yeah. Yeah, probably.
Who's the other guy that does it? Al Michaels? No.
Not anymore.
Mike Tirico?
Mike Tirico.
Yeah, there you go. So, hey, that's that's going to be a good game. We get to see Jahmyr Gibbs, so that's exciting. But Gibbs, we've talked about 100 times, high draft capital. Rick's brought up the fact that they wanted to draft him at 6. And
yes.
Just the straight lunacy. They probably could have traded back for even more picks and still been able to draft him at 20 or something stupid. But I mean, Gibbs was even being projected in a lot of drafts to like the Eagles and even the Cowboys to some respects. So like there was some teams drafting him that were projected to draft him relatively high. So I get why the Lions made it, but we were all like, what just happened?
Yeah, it's just they had Swift at the time too still.
Oh yeah, so we were all like, why are the Lions doing this? So clearly they got
I still don't think it was a good pick, but
no, I agree. I don't think it was a good pick either. But draft capital is king for the running back position. Like, you can talk about talent all you want with the wide receivers. You can talk about talent with the running back position all you want. But at the end of the day, it really depends on what your landing spot is. And especially for running backs. Sometimes you strike out like the Chiefs did with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yes.
And that ends up not being good. What was he? Was he a first-round pick?
He was the last pick of the first round, I think.
Wow. But I would say a majority of the time, first-round running backs, at least one every single year, gets, like, if you get drafted in the first round as a running back, you end up finishing in the top 12 at the running back position. This year we have 2, and both of them were drafted inside the top 12. So, like, it's clear 2 of the guys that we're going to have on this list, but Gibbs is one of them. And I think the main, like, plus side and the main benefit of Gibbs is his pass catching upside. Like, he's going to go on this team. I don't think he's going to be a dude that gets, 300 carries or even 250 carries. I think he'll probably be, like, right around 170 to 190 in terms of carries this year. But the big area that you're going to see a massive productive load from him is pass catching. And everyone's compared him to Alvin Kamara. They've had that comparison from, the beginning. His college target share, 93rd percentile, 14.7%. So we know he can pass catch. We know he can get the ball. He was 6 yards per catch, or was that's carry? Sorry, 6 yards per carry in college. But so his main area is going to be in the pass catching. And I've seen him even in practices. They talked about how he's been lining up in the slot. He's been lining up at receiver. He's been in the backfield. He's been taking screens. Like, they're trying to get him involved. He's made some ridiculous catches in camp already, and people are getting excited. But he is the cheaper version of Behan. So you're going to probably be able to get him in the 3rd round. But I think there's a real potential based on chances of running back to get drafted, especially in the top 15, finishing as an RB1. There's a really good shot that he can do it. And you're going to end up with an RB1 if you draft him. So lots of good things with Behan, with Jahmyr Gibbs, but I'm trying to get him on every single one of my teams.
Yeah, we've seen obviously some of the training camp hype videos too, where have you seen they did a joint practice with the Giants?
Yeah.
And they had a linebacker matched up on him, and he just there was 20 yards of separation. He ran a wheel route.
Oh my God.
It was not even close. He blew by him. There's been obviously comparisons with Alvin Kamara pre-draft.
Yeah.
I'll say he's not going to get 250 carries. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, right.
But they're going to use him as the Alvin Kamara. I have him projected at 190 carries, but I have him at 60 catches. So
he
ends up being the RB12 in PPR because of that.
Yeah, any running back that catches more than 50 passes is automatically going to finish
with
in the top
3
15.
receiving touchdowns, 423 receiving yards.
I would be stunned. If Gibbs doesn't have some sort of breakout. Just the way that, I remember when the Lions got Dan Campbell, bite your kneecaps, all that good stuff.
Right.
When they got him, it just didn't seem like they were too enthused about having
a kind of soft,
having
running back,
DeAndre Swift as your running back, and
they've never used him like they probably
never used him the way they probably should have, and it just seemed like they didn't like him. And so the benefit now is that this is a Dan Campbell draft specialty. This is what he wanted, and they go out and get the same exact player. That's strong, because I think Jahmyr Gibbs is probably better, but
Gibbs is more physical, at least.
Yeah, so it fits what he wants to do, and it's his guy. So they're going to pass it to him a lot.
He's literally just a more tougher physical version of Swift, but he plays very similar.
Yeah. So, we're going to see good things from Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly say, we know about his talent. We know about the situation that he's in, all that. Just briefly, since 2015, guys who have been drafted in the top, we'll say 15 for running backs.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon,
RB1.
Todd Gurley,
RB1.
Ezekiel Elliott,
RB1.
Leonard Fournette,
RB1.
Christian McCaffrey,
RB1.
Saquon Barkley,
RB1.
I think that's it. And then Behan and Gibbs. So
RB1 and RB1.
that might be a good transition to our next guy.
Yeah, it's number 2, Behan Robonson.
And this is such an obvious one. People are gonna be like, why is he on the list? But at the same time, it's like he is a breakout.
I've actually grown some concerns.
Oh.
And I'm just scared of the Falcons. I think they suck. I think Ritter blows.
That's fair.
I think their offensive line is below mid. And
well, I don't know.
I don't know. There's just something about them that I could be dead wrong. I'm still drafting
I agree with you on
Pitts.
Ritter. I definitely agree with you on Ritter. And Arthur Smith,
I'm still drafting Pitts, and if London's in the right spot, I might take him. But Behan literally is their offense. And there was a report the other day that was like, which I doubt they're going to do, but they were like, oh, we're not going to give Behan 1,000 reps. We don't want to run him into the ground. Well, God forbid you use your top 10 overall selection that was only going to last for 5 years.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, so there is some concerns for me with Behan Robinson. And especially because the community is so freaking high on him. And it's like, yeah, you know what? People were high on the last guy that got drafted pretty much that high. And it was Saquon Barkley, and he ended up finishing very, very high in fantasy football. So, I mean, could that be
RB1 the year he got drafted?
Yeah, so like, could that be Behan? Of course we could see that. And the Panthers sucked too. So, like, did they suck that year?
Who?
Or the Panthers when they drafted Christian McCaffrey.
I don't think they did year one.
Or not. I'm sorry.
You mean the Giants with Barkley?
Yes, yeah, that's what I meant. I don't know.
Yeah, they were mid. They were mid.
Yeah, so
I can look it up, but
is that our direct comparison here? Is Saquon? Because like if that happens and they were mid and the Atlanta Falcons are mid, like you're fine with Behan. I think you're fine to draft him. It's just it scares me that a player that is going to a not great offense and a not great football team is walking into a situation where, oh yeah, we're going to give him a lot of opportunity, of course, but now he's getting drafted in the top 3. If he went to the Chiefs, this would be warranted. He'd probably be the RB1 in fantasy right now.
Well, I'll tell you this. The year Barkley as a rookie finished as the RB1.
Yeah.
The Giants were 5-11.
Man.
So,
yeah, so
but I don't think Behan will finish as the
RB1. Did they have
RB1.
OBJ that year? Sorry to go down the rabbit hole. Okay, all right. So I'm trying to figure out what the talent is on that football.
That was Eli's, I think last year, I want to say. He was not great.
Yeah, so I mean, can he be ridiculously good? Yes, of course. But and that was the direct when he was coming out before he got drafted by Atlanta. That was the direct comparison. Like the closest player that you had available was Behan. I mean, was Saquon Barkley as a comparison because that was the last guy that got drafted in the top 10. So
yeah,
if he comes out and he is that good, then obviously there's a chance that he could be, not just top 5, but be up there. The problem is that you're putting your chips down on the table that will happen if you draft him in the top 3 at the running back position.
Right.
Which is something that makes me a little bit more nauseous than normal.
Absolutely. Now I'll be I guess devil's advocate to that.
Okay, tell me he's going to score 420 fantasy points.
So obviously we know about him as the prospect. He's the best running back prospect since Barkley. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So we understand the talent level that he's in. And the situation, yes, does Ritter blow? Probably. Is Arthur Smith a moron? Probably.
Yeah, definitely.
But one thing Arthur Smith does love to do is run the football. The Falcons last year
gave it to Cordero Patterson so many times.
Were the ahead of the Bears, ahead of the Eagles, led the NFL in rushing attempts.
Unbelievable.
They were number 1 in the NFL at rushing attempts. I think there is a real chance that Behan can get around 300 carries. I think that's possible. I didn't project him at that.
Yeah, if
even close.
If he hits 300 carries and 50 catches, I mean, we're sitting here. What are we talking about? He's automatically top 3.
Right, which I think is in the realm of possibilities, and I don't think it's very low. I don't want to say that's a high chance of happening because I don't think that's high, but because I only projected him at 265 rushing attempts and 38 catches. So, which is still a lot of
You'd
touches.
have to average 3.5 yards a carry to get 1,000 yards with 300 touches, 300 carries.
Right. So, and I think he's too talented to do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So he's obviously and I look back at talking about Gibbs, I look back at the history of all these running backs that were drafted since 2015. Every single one of them was an RB1 year one. Every single one of them. Who was drafted in the top 15, except Melvin Gordon, I believe, wasn't year one, but he ended up being like a pretty good fantasy player, right?
Yeah.
And had multiple RB1 seasons. So just looking at the history, like it's hard to deny that he will be an RB1. How high is he going to be? That's fair.
Yeah, because
is he going to be the RB1, RB2, RB3? Maybe
I think that's
not.
the main question, because like my thing is that he's definitely a breakout. Like this is our show. So he's 1,000% a breakout. Like he's going to finish as a top 12 running back. He's a new guy in the league that we ain't never seen before. So like he is going to be a breakout running back. It's easy money. The problem that I have is just how much it costs to get him. Like that's the only problem I have. If he was the 6th running back off the board, I'd be shooting every shot I have. But because you have to physically draft him after Austin Eckler, like just to even think about getting him is ridiculous. Like that to me is like I just can't even, that high of a draft selection with that much risk attached for him. Maybe like what if he doesn't work out? Then you're screwed. Like your whole team, your whole fantasy team collapses unless you have the best, round 2 to round 8 that anyone's ever had.
Yeah. But like even worst case scenario, I mean, not even, this is crazy to say worst case scenario, but like, let's say he kind of has like the year that, like, let's say he's like RB9.
Okay.
You're still getting an RB1.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And is his, I don't know. I feel like a debate for a different show.
For sure.
On if he's getting drafted
I'll
too
let
high.
it go. He's a breakout
but
though.
As for a breakout, I think it's undisputed.
Yeah, so Gibbs and Robinson, I think both of them should be RB1s. I would imagine that both of them are. Like if we look back on this show, I would be shocked. And for both of these guys, we don't got time for that. But I was going to ask the same question we asked last show. If it doesn't happen, why did it not happen?
Well, Gibbs, I think I don't know if he's going to finish as an RB1. I think he'll be close at least.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And that's David Montgomery. I don't know if he's going to get all the goal line carries. And I don't know if he's just going to get enough carries to be RB1.
Yeah.
And then Bihan, it's obviously the offense. That's your concerns about the offense being just brutal all come to the situation, and Arthur Smith being an idiot and maybe splitting him in
whoever the backup is.
Algier.
Algier, yeah.
So, but I think Bihan is like, I don't want to say he's a lock, but
oh yeah, like if he doesn't work out, gonna be a lot of
that'd be a huge bust.
A lot of fantasy receipts going to that.
If he's not RB1, I think that would be a massive bust.
Shock. It would be a shock to me. I'd be like, whoa, what happened? Like he
comes
at game 1 and gets like 6 points.
Yeah.
All right, number 3 here, because we got a couple of guys that are a little bit more stretches. Like I said, this is like the first 2 guys, very easy, like breakouts. Had to put him on the show. I almost didn't want to put Bihan on there because he's so much already like a lock for people in their minds to be a top 12 running back. But he is a rookie, and there is some questions obviously about him. So like, him and Gibbs. So like, it's gonna be, I think Bihan being on the list is it has to be the case, because a lot of people are just walking into fantasy football going, "Who's this new guy?" I didn't see him in the top 12 last year.
Right.
But anyway, number 3 is James Cook, and Rick kind of made me look into this. A bit more, and I
forced you.
I don't mind it. I'm nervous. I'll say, Rick, you can tell us why, but I'm more nervous. I'll give you the devil's advocate here. I'm more nervous that they're like, the Bills are not going to pass it to the running back position, because they never do, realistically. Like, they don't throw it to the running back position all that much. I would say probably like 50 times on the season. So to everyone, there's just not a lot of workload that goes to the running back position. And they also got Kincaid, who I think they're not going to hyper target this year because he is a rookie tight end, but I think that he's going to take some of that work as well. Like, I would say if I had to make like a target chart list, it would be Diggs, Gabe Davis, Kincaid, and then maybe a running back.
Mm-hmm.
But Khalil Shakur might even fall in front of those guys. I don't know. So it's just like there's not always a lot of target share to the running back position. The second thing is Damian Harris is there. And Harris did not have a great season last year, but he's on a football team with a much better offensive line and a quarterback named Josh Allen. So there's going to be a lot more room for him to move around. So I think Harris is going to be a lot better than people anticipate. And when they hit the goal line, they're not handing it to James Cook. They're handing it to Damian Harris, in my mind. I do think there's a chance that James Cook does get more carries because he's more of a Singletary-like player, better than Singletary, I think. But to me, I'm more nervous about James Cook and his upside because of those factors, because I don't really think everyone's like, oh, he's a good pass-catching running back. He's going to be the pass-catching guy. Well, how many catches is he going to have? Is it going to be enough for him to ascend into that role? And is he going to get enough carries to even be in the conversation of, okay, like if he gets 150 carries and 50 catches, that's 200 touches, but the 50 catches is obviously a huge chunk of fantasy points. So where do we end up having James Cook? I just don't like if Damian Harris, if they have 10 rushing touchdowns among the running backs on their season, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Damian Harris has 7 and James Cook has 3. And the big thing that really sends a player over the top in fantasy football for the most part in PPR is receptions and big-time touchdowns. Like you score more than 5 touchdowns. So that's my concerns with James Cook. But Rick, tell us why James Cook is breakout.
No, those are fair concerns. But when I was doing my projections and I kind of looked into James Cook and kind of taking a step back here, and I'm not saying I'm targeting him in drafts or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a huge James Cook share. But I do think he could be a breakout. And one of the reasons is, yes, the pass catching. And is he limited? Mm-hmm. And is he going to get 100 targets? No, not necessarily. But of the running backs, he will dominate the pass catching share, right? And looking back on his season last year, if you prorated his season, because he kind of was redshirting, he didn't get a lot of opportunity last year. Mm-hmm. Second half of the season, he did get more. So I just paced out what his second half of the season was. And he was getting he paced out for 50 targets, 49 to be exact, and 34 catches. So I projected him not even that crazier than that, 54 targets. And he still ended up having a decent season with just 54 targets. Yeah. And I gave Damian Harris more touchdowns. I gave Damian Harris more carries. And James Cook still projected to be pretty decent. And one of the reasons is last year, he averaged 5.7 yards per carry, which is crazy. I don't think he's going to average that again this year. Yeah. But it shows that he's pretty efficient, especially in that Bills offense, right? He's much better than Devin Singletary. And if he plays the Devin Singletary role, he'll be more efficient in it, which we always talked about last 2 years. Hey, Devin Singletary could be that guy. He's just inefficient. So if James Cook just plays that role and is efficient, he's going to be pretty decent. I don't think he's going to be an RB1 by any means. Even in RB2, I'm not super confident about that. But being a low-end RB2, I could absolutely see that.
I mean, he's a breakout.
And that's a breakout. And honestly, that could be a value depending on where he's going. Now, he moved up, depending on the format that you use and the website that you use, he could be a value or he could not be a value. But I would keep my eye on James Cook. I'm not opposed to him, and I do think he can very easily break out. Mm-hmm. Not to mention that Damian Harris is always hurt. He's hurt last year for the Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
He's hurt in training camp right now.
That's factors that you have to add in.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then James Cook could actually really truly have a breakout season.
Yeah, the only issue that I see with that is I don't think James Cook can handle a workload like Damian Harris can.
I don't think he would get 25 carries a game.
But. No, for sure not. But I don't think that's they're a football team that's going to do that anyway. So
no.
I mean, there's definitely upside. So that's why I'll say for me, the reason why I'm okay with him being on this list is A, he's on a ridiculous offense. B, there could be some pass catching upside, even though I don't think it's a lot. There is some pass catching upside, and C, if things go positively and Damian Harris either gets hurt or sucks, and they're just like, you know what, we're going to go full with James Cook, there's a chance that he could break out and have a really good season. And I think when you're talking about getting him a little bit later in drafts, like you're taking after round 6, you're taking dart throws at the running back position. And I think this is a dart throw that you need to take. And I think there's a chance that this guy could break out. I think it's lower than 50%, to be honest with you. And when I say breakout, I really feel like that's probably like top 15, like somebody that people are talking about. You know what I mean? Like if he ends up like as a low end RB2, high end RB3, then he's kind of like he's higher than people thought. But I don't think people are going to be like, oh my God, did you see James Cook's season? So anyway, let's move on to the next guy. Number 4, we'll talk about him quickly. We haven't talked about him a lot, though. So is Devin Achane or Devin A-Chain? I don't know how you say it.
Devin Achane.
I'm going to go with Devin Achane, but I've heard both. I've heard A-Chain. The one was on a podcast, and I thought it was a nickname, but then I heard several other people call him A-Chain as well. So he's got player comps on Player Profiler to Chris Johnson. Remember him?
Oh, I like that.
He's 93rd percentile college target share. 40% college dominator, 91 percentile on that. He's 5'9", 188, so a little bit smaller of a back, but he's ridiculously fast. 4.32 was his 40-yard dash time. Speed score 88th percentile. Like he is very fast. If it's if the Miami Dolphins aren't trying to win Super Bowls, they're trying to become the fastest friggin' team in the NFL. If this guy starts games with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, by the way.
Dude, they are the fastest offense in the NFL by far.
It's like they're just gonna shred people. You only can run 100 yards, guys. We don't need a track team. Like if you put this team together and you put them against a D3 college track team, they might beat them.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Anyway, then you know what, they would beat him because Tyreek Hill's there. But so no, Devin Achane is there's talent there. There's definitely something there. They drafted him in the 3rd round. And every once in a while there is a 3rd round running back that does perform better than people anticipate. I think the big thing for Devin Achane for me is not really like there's talent there, and like I said, there's some good things. But the big thing for the Miami Dolphins is that they really don't have a talented guy in the running back room that can take things over. They were linked to Dalvin Cook. They've been linked to Ezekiel Elliott. They've been linked to Kareem Hunt. They've been linked to every running back to ever survive on the free agents list halfway through the preseason here. And when I look at their running back room, they still haven't signed any of those guys. And to be honest,
they're no longer interested in them.
They're no longer interested in them. And Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert are still there. Gaskin sucks. So does Salvon Ahmed. But Mostert and Wilson are there. So I think you're going to have to overcome Wilson and Mostert before, for the first couple weeks of the season. Achane's going to go in there. He's going to get a couple of opportunities, and he's going to have to earn it. But knowing Raheem Mostert and knowing Jeff Wilson, the chances of injury for both of them is over 75%. So I'm going to say, not that I'm wishing injury upon either one of these players, but this just track record. So I think Devin Achane will probably by week 4 be the starting running back for the Miami Dolphins. And if he's doing really good in camp, it might even happen sooner than that. I think he ends up the running back 1 for the Miami Dolphins. And once that happens, all bets are off. I don't think he can handle a large workload. If you just look at his build, 188
he's kind of like James Cook.
Yeah, he's kind of like James Cook in size. So he's a guy that probably won't he'll max out at 175 carries. Maybe he can get over that mark, but his area is going to be in the pass catching game, and with a quarterback like Tua Tagovailoa, they're going to be looking underneath a lot. And I think you're going to see Achane get a lot of opportunity, but he's also extremely fast, which in that Mike Shanahan system or Kyle Shanahan system that Mike McDaniel runs, I think he works perfectly on those outside rushes. Because he's so freaking fast. By the time he gets off the edge, they're not even going to know what hit him. So I think there's really good benefits to Devin Achane. I think there's a chance that he breaks out. I hate putting 3 rookies on this list because I don't think 3 rookies are going to finish in the top 12. But I think there's a chance that he could be. I think there's a chance he could be top 15, top 17 by the end of the season. And a lot of people are looking back, going, "Why didn't I draft Devin Achane?"
Yeah, I could see that, and I could also even see if he doesn't finish that high, because kind of a slow start, but he ends up having like a league winner type finish to a season or second half to a season.
Yeah.
Because I do think with all the guys healthy to start the year, he's kind of going to be taking a slight back seat.
Yeah.
But as you said, injuries for those top two guys. And I do think even without injuries, eventually he's going to work his way up the depth chart. I also think even without injuries to those guys, he's going to probably get the most targets. I was looking at like his college numbers, and his last year in college, he had 36 catches in 10 games, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think in training camp so far, they've used him a lot in passing situations, and we know PPR pass catching running backs are king. So with the kind of game breaking speed that he has,
catches in an NFL season,
right? And we know with the kind of game breaking speed that he has, he's got potential to be ridiculous in this offense too. Like the Dolphins offense is really good. We know the kind of speed that he has and the potential opportunity that he has. He could be this year's Dameon Pierce. He's someone who's like a rookie running back who some people aren't crazy about. Some people like him. Some people don't.
The hype got really high at the end of last year, towards the end of the preseason and the end of training camps for Dameon Pierce. I don't know if the hype for everyone else is on that level, but I do agree with you. I do agree with you. I think that if there's a comp to last year, Dameon Pierce is definitely that guy.
Yeah, and we'll see like last preseason game, Devin Archain, however you want to pronounce his name. A-Chain comes out there and he gets an 80-yard rushing touchdown. Where do you think the hype will go?
Oh, God, they're going to lose it. When do the Dolphins play anyway?
I think every team plays this weekend, right?
Yeah. I just didn't know what day. I'll look it up later because I want to see if he plays and how effective.
But yeah, I could see that, and then all of a sudden the hype goes through because right now he's what, like an 11th round pick, 10th round pick?
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
So I'm taking that and putting him on my bench every day of the week.
For sure. All right, let's quickly talk about the last guy because I got to scoot. It's Khalil Herbert for the Chicago Bears. They lost David Montgomery in the offseason, let him walk, and they drafted Roschon Johnson, so there could be something there. The backfield for the Chicago Bears, I just want to pull that up and tell you what it looks like. Because it is barren after Roschon Johnson. They have Donta Foreman and Travis Homer. They also have Tristan Ebner, who was mid last year when they brought him in for certain situations. Roschon's definitely their second running back, and I honestly really like Roschon Johnson. He kind of fills that all-purpose running back build, 6 foot, 219, so he can handle a big workload. His player comp is Josh Jacobs on Player Profiler. His workout profile, not great. Not a good speed score, not a good 40-yard dash, not a good burst score. So he's a little bit slower of a running back, but we saw last year Ramondre Stevenson come in, have great contact balance despite his slowness. So, and he plays fast. Like when you watch Ramondre Stevenson on tape. So, Roschon Johnson could be one of those guys for the Bears, but he is a lot lower of a selection, 4th round pick. So, like the chances of him becoming a really, really talented running back, or not becoming a talented running back, becoming a good fantasy football running back this year, I don't think is super high. So to me, I think it's going to be Khalil Herbert for this season. His profile is actually very similar to Roschon Johnson, which is kind of funny. But anyway, so he had a lot of opportunities last year. He showed in a lot of games that he could be, at least decent in fantasy football. He had in PPR a number 1 performance in week 3 with 30 fantasy points. He had a top 15 performance in week 8 against Dallas with 15 fantasy points. So there's been spots where he's been able to have success, but his big question is like opportunity. You know what I mean? Like if he comes out week 1 and he gets 250 carries and he gets the David Montgomery workload with some pass catching work, then like obviously there's going to be some benefits for having a guy like Khalil Herbert on the team and having him in fantasy. And I think that the chances of Roschon Johnson becoming a dude this year and in the next couple of years are low. I hope it happens because I drafted him in some dynasty leagues, so that would be great. But I think Khalil's their guy for now. Like it's gonna be Khalil Herbert's backfield until he proves that he's not. My big thing is that Herbert is the type of dude, if we believe, Rick and I are projecting the Bears to be a lot better than a lot of people think they are, and the offense is going to be highly improved. And if we believe in their offense and we believe in the Bears to have success this year, then we should be buying in and believing in Khalil Herbert, especially if they're going to give him a plethora of opportunity to show he can be the number one running back for the football team. So if that happens and the Bears are good, then that should indirectly mean that Khalil Herbert is good.
Right.
So, and that's at this point why I think he should be on the breakout list, because I think that he's going to end up, he's a cheaper 9th, 10th round value, but he's going to be one of those guys that ends up overplaying that by significant amounts. He might end up in the top 15 or 20 in fantasy football, and you get a really great value, especially if you're doing, zero running back in a PPR league.
Yeah, agreed. And I think he, at least, even if Roshan comes in, he's going to be the guy to start.
Yeah.
And I personally think they're kind of going to split, which is why I'm a little bullish on Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think he's going to, of the two guys, get the majority of the work. And I do think the Bears are going to have a really good season. I'm high on the Bears. I'm higher on the Bears than apparently most people. And I do think they have a really good offense. I think they could be sneaking in the playoffs this year as well, the wildcard team. So I'm obviously high on the Bears. I think you're pretty high on the Bears as well. Yeah. So just based on that alone, and if we think Herbert is going to be the guy, as you're saying, then it only translates to him having a decent season. I don't think he's going to be – I think of all the guys on this list, he has the lowest ceiling.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't think he's going to be someone who's like electric, but I am drafting him in drafts for where he's going. And I think he could be really, really solid and have a breakout season of like somebody who kind of sneaks in there as an RB2 that you're like, oh, that's kind of I wasn't expecting that sort of player because of his opportunity that he's going to get this year. And we know the Bears coaching staff obviously like him for letting David Montgomery go. And even last year they were using him a lot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a split, but they used him more than just as like a backup running back.
Yeah.
More than a backup running back.
Yeah. So I would get Khalil Herbert on the team. If you're drafting, I think it's a smart draft selection with the chances. I think it's funny because these last three guys are definitely I feel like they're more of like sleeper picks at the running back position than they are like breakout running backs. But I feel like, the hard part is that the running back position after Gibbs and Robinson is so thin for guys that we think are breaking out. You know what I mean? Because usually we like to classify the breakout as a dude who hasn't really done it before. Like we talked about putting Jerry Jeudy on the list for breakout wide receivers, but has he broken out yet? Has he not broken out yet? Where are we at with that? In the past, we put CeeDee Lamb on it multiple years in a row because he really didn't become a wide receiver one. So I think there were guys that if you significantly outperform your ADP, you're breaking out. Even if it's not like if Khalil Herbert 100%. Finishes at RB 18, you know what I mean? I think he's still probably breaking out.
I think if you're an RB2, you broke out. If you've never had a good season before and then you're an RB2, that's kind of a breakout season.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like all of these guys, try to get them all on your team, especially the first two. Gibbs, Robinson, Cook, A-Chain, or A-Kane. I don't know. Somebody in the comments tell me how to say it because I don't know how to say it. And then Khalil Herbert. Try to get these guys on your team. We're going to do a mock draft next, and then next week we'll finish off the breakout show and give you some risky players. Thanks for listening, guys. Sayonara.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.